رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله يا غريب كربلاء. رزقنا الله في الدنيا زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا والآخرة. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقرآنه الحميد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, may Allah bless you again for attending the majalis of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi. Every nation, to the best of my knowledge, celebrates their new year, except the followers of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een, who actually start their new year by wearing the black, by shedding their tears on the eve of the first day of the new year, which is tomorrow. For the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, it's a time of grief, it's a time of pain, as they commemorate the tragedy of Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam. And in doing so, you are all included, inshallah, each and every one of you, these young children, all of you, our sisters upstairs, the young children upstairs, everybody, inshallah, is included in the dua of Al-Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he says, أحيوا أمرنا رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. Revive our traditions. May Allah have mercy upon those who revive our traditions. So all of you, inshallah, and all of us, inshallah, are included in the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single night you attend these majalis, you're included in this rahmah that is prayed for to you, my brothers and my sisters, by Imam Al-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi. Over the course, inshallah, of the 13 or so nights that we have here, inshallah, together, our theme or our discussion in English, first of all, we'll start every night, inshallah, with a full English lecture, with the na'i and everything. And then we'll give about a minute break for anybody who wants to leave. As I understand, I apologize, I just came in from a long flight from Canada. So that's why my voice is not really the greatest for today, but inshallah tomorrow we'll rebound again, inshallah. By tomorrow we'll do some, I'll go see some mechanic to fix the pipes and fix everything. Every night we'll start with the English lecture, inshallah. Complete English lecture, and then we'll give about a minute or two break. I understand some of you may have children, some of you may not understand the Arabic. We have the Arabic speakers maybe coming in later. So we'll take a break. People who want to leave, feel free to leave. And then we'll start, inshallah, with the Arabic lecture. For your information, the Arabic lectures topic are different from the English lecture. So if you want to stay for both of them, you can remain if you wish. In Arabic, we're doing, inshallah, the tafsir of the ayah that talk about the story of Talut and Jalut. So that story and how it relates to Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. So for the next few nights, that will be our topic in Arabic. In English, however, one thing that I've been noticing amongst our brothers, our sisters, our youth, is that this disconnection between us and Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, and between us and the Quran. Let's face the reality. A lot of youths here, for example, a few days ago we celebrated Eid al-Ghadir. A few days ago, if you remember. Now if you ask some of the youth here, for example, why is it important to remember Ghadir or Eid al-Ghadir? Why is it important to do so? You wouldn't be surprised that they would say, I don't know. What is Eid al-Ghadir? Almost everybody knows, or many people know. What is Eid al-Ghadir? When you ask what, but when you ask why, that's when there is no answer. Why? What difference does it make to me to learn about, for example, Eid al-Ghadir? Me being a youth, or being a teenager, or being somebody living in this city in Sydney, Australia in the 21st century with all the scientific discoveries, with all the technologies. What does learning about Ghadir affect my life? Or how does it affect my life? How is it going to change it? Okay. It is such questions that we need to address. Why is it important to learn about Eid al-Ghadir? Why is it important to learn about Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam? People have felt this disconnection. We sometimes come here, commemorate or celebrate the occasion, shed our tears sometimes, or enjoy, depending on the occasion, but we've made it into a ritual as opposed to learning from these majalis and why they are important and attending them. Same thing with the Quran. Quran is an integral part of our lives. It's so important. We have had this disconnection. So inshallah, over the course of those 10 or so nights that we'll be together, in English, what we'll be doing is every night, inshallah, we'll be choosing a story from the Quran. And that story will be related to Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, in the context of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, with the objective to realize that the revolution of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam stems from the Quran. It is the Quran, but embodied in the figure of Al-Imam Al-Hussein salamullah alayhi, in the actions of Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Because the same hadith that goes to Imam Ali alayhi salam applies to Imam Al-Hussein. When the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa says, Aliyun ma'al Quran, wal Quranu ma'a Ali. That Ali alayhi salam is with the Quran, and the Quran is with Ali. With the Prophet, and this applies to all of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. They're all with the Quran. They're all Ahlul Dhikr. Fas'alu Ahlul Dhikr. Ask the people of the Quran when you are unaware, when you don't know. They all embody the message of the Holy Quran. So it's important for us to learn from them. And then inshallah, in the course of doing so, we'll relate it to daily issues, to problems that we face in our daily lives. We will also touch upon, inshallah, if Allah gives us a tawfiq, especially in the English lectures, we'll touch upon issues that relate to leadership, communication, things that some of you, especially those of you who may have businesses, some of you who may be dealing with others, some points that might benefit you in terms of leadership, in terms of communication skills. Because all these really relate to Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. We kind of tend to think of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam as only religious references, but rather they're references in our daily lives. And I'll give you an example of an experience that happened to me a couple years ago. 2 years ago, I was invited in the city where I lived in Canada. It was a small city, it's called Edmonton. In Edmonton, I was invited in the city council, the council, to give a talk about interfaith. So there was a Jewish person, a rabbi, a priest, Christian priest, and I was the Muslim. It was an interfaith kind of session, dialogue. This session was attended by the premier or the head of the state. What do you call them? Do you call them the governors? What do you call them? Do you have head of a state? Like New South Wales? The premier? Premier. So we do have. So the premier attended the session. Some of the members of parliament, dignitaries, etc. They all were there. In the course of my dialogue, my discussion, I said to people that Islam is a religion that respects everybody. And I said that the Prophet's successor and his son-in-law, Imam Ali alayhi salam, wrote a letter to his governor in Egypt, a man by the name of Malik. And he told him in the letter that, Ya Malik, wa'lam anna an-nasa sinfan, imma akhun laka fi ad-din aw nadhirun laka fi al-khalq. Malik, be aware that people in this world fall under one of two categories. They're either your brothers and sisters in faith, or you're equal in humanity. So treat all your subjects with respect, with dignity. And I told them this quote of Imam Ali has been quoted by then United Nations Secretary General in 1997, Kofi Annan. When I heard about this initially, I didn't believe it. I actually went to the United Nations website, UN.org, and I searched Kofi Annan and Imam Ali. Until I found it, the whole speech is there on the United Nations website of Kofi Annan, given back in 1997 when he was celebrating the 50th anniversary for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights back in 1997. He actually gave this quote, Kofi Annan. He said, this is the quote that, according to him, Arab nations should live by, because this is how things should run. So interestingly, I think all nations need to live by this quote, not just the Arab nations. Nonetheless, I gave this speech, this talk, at the city council about 2-3 years ago. Immediately after the lecture, I was approached by two people. One of them identified himself as a Jewish poet. He says, I am a Jewish poet. I write poetry. I was so inspired by this quote you gave from Imam Ali that I'm going to use it in my poetry as an inspiration to write some of my poems. Then a professor came to me. He said, I'm a professor at the local university, University of Alberta. He said, I really like this quote that you gave of Imam Ali. I've never heard anything like this before. This is really good. I'm going to teach it to my children and to my students at the university. At that point, subhanallah, one of the ulama, this is just as a side note, one of the ulama says, we have Nahjul Balagha. We've read Nahjul Balagha. This alim says, I even memorized a lot of the sermons of Nahjul Balagha. However, he says, you sometimes don't realize and appreciate how great it is because you have it all the time. Until one day you start thinking about it, reflecting upon it, then you start realizing what a treasure we have. This kind of was one of those awakening moments where we've been reading Nahjul Balagha, we've been coming across the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the same sentence I just gave from his letter. This we've been quoting for several years now. But at that moment, it was like an awakening moment when they came to me. I thought to myself, subhanallah, if one sentence or two sentences from Nahjul Balagha moved those people, imagine what would happen if we actually give them all of Nahjul Balagha. What will it do to people? And we have that. We have that treasure. We have Nahj al-Balagha, we have Sahif al-Sajjadiyya, we have Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, who've given us depth and insight into the Holy Quran. They've embodied the Holy Quran for us. So really, why do we leave them? If we have this great treasure, why not learn from it? In the world, in the society, in the community, researchers normally what they do, they try to take a successful model. When they want to implement something, they look at a successful model and they say, you know what, let us follow this successful model. For example, I'll give you an example. In Finland, Finland has one of the most successful educational systems of education. They have the highest rate of students graduating from high school and entering universities and then graduating from university afterwards. So the Finnish system is classified to be a successful model. So what happens is researchers in the United States, in Canada, other parts of the world, what they do, they study the Finnish model because it's a successful model. So they look at it and they say, what are they doing different from us so that we can implement it and hopefully we can increase the rates of students who are graduating from high school, entering universities. That's something logical. That's a logical concept. When you have a successful model, and instead of reinventing the whole wheel again, you study that model and you try to basically enhance it such that it fits your system. We have Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. We have a great successful model. When it comes to marriage, we can take a look at Fatima al-Zahra and Imam Ali alayhim as-salam, or the Prophet and Khadija alayhim as-salam. We have great models. When we talk about youths, we have several models. You can talk about Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. You can talk about Ali al-Akbar, Al-Qasim, several models. Imam Ali alayhi salam when he was young with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. We have so many models of youth that we can actually look at them, study them, and then implement them in our lives. And so on and so forth in all aspects of our life. There is a successful model. Why do we leave it? The problem is we have not fully comprehended how important they are and how great this model is and how can we implement it in our lives. Inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq over the course of the 10 nights or so, we'll try to shed some light on some aspects of these great models such that we can implement them in our lives, if Allah gives us tawfiq to do so. We'll begin inshallah tonight with the story of Mu'min, Surat Yasin. Okay. So, many people read Surat Yasin here, they're familiar with it. Just as a brief recap to this part of the story of the surah. There was a city by the name of Antioch. The city of Antioch were not followers, were not believers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is said that the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Isa sent them 3 messengers to guide them. Initially 2 were sent, but those people did not believe in them. They belied them. And they hurt them. So the Prophet then sent a 3rd messenger. So this messenger then goes. The 3rd one, on his way to Antioch, he stops on the outskirts, outside the city, the countryside. Okay. He stays with a shepherd. This shepherd's name is Habib. Quran doesn't tell us his name, but the history says his name was Habib, Habib al-Najjar. So he stayed with Habib. After staying with Habib, after a few days, this 3rd messenger of Isa alayhi salam starts talking to Habib that why don't you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. After having the conversation, Habib asked this 3rd messenger, he said to him, listen, so you claim to be kind of a messenger coming from Allah? He said, yes. He said, so this God of yours, is he powerful, capable? He said, yes. Can he cure those who are ill? Yes. He said, okay, I have a son. The son has been ill for many, many years. If you can cure him for me, then I will believe in you. He said, okay, where is your son? He takes him to his son. This third messenger then prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With the barakah of his dua, the son is cured. Habib then believes, becomes a mu'min. This third messenger then goes into the city and starts reminding the people about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supporting the other two. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابَ الْقَرْيَةِ. Allah says in the surah, give them the example of the people of the city or the village. When we sent them two people, they belied them. Then we sent a third messenger to help them. They belied all three messengers, even the third one. They still didn't believe in him. Here's where Habib, when he heard that those three messengers have been belied, especially the third one, because he had a personal connection with him. And that's something really important here, brothers and sisters. Developing the personal connection with people. And especially developing the personal connection with Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. It's really important for us, if we want to influence people, to change their lives, to develop a personal connection with them. You start to get to know them. You know, sometimes you might give lectures, but it's not until you touch people's lives directly that you can have the greatest impact. So you find Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, they were not people who, let's say, sat in their homes and then came out to the masjid, gave a khutbah and then went back into their homes. Or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was not his style. He would keep in touch with people, connect with them, look after them. If someone is sick, is not here, he asks, where is he? Where is so-and-so? And then he goes to visit him. When the person sees Rasulullah has come to visit me, despite all his busy affairs and his busy time schedule, yet he's come to visit me. That develops this love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why people loved the Holy Prophet. It is said there was a king who sent some messengers to Medina to see who is this man, this prophet. These messengers came, they observed, and then they went back to their king. So he asked them, he says, so how is this king of Arabia, you know, the new king? They said, he's not a king. The messengers now replied to him. He said, we have never seen this. He said, they have something called wudu, ablution. You know, where he takes water, this leader of theirs, he takes water and he pours it over his face and then his arms and so on and so forth. He said, these people, his companions, they actually wait for him to pour the water, so they will take the water from underneath him. And they take it and they drink it. That we have never seen. These people are in mad love with their leader. Because their leader is one of them. He's with them. He connects to them. And that's how they described Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to their king. This truly is the description. There's one of the ulama by the name of Sayyid Muhsin Al-Amin, Ridwanullah Ta'ala alayh. He lived in Syria for some years. One day a man visits him. He finds that several people are coming to him, especially at the time of Salat. They come to him, they pray behind him, then they kiss his hand, and then they leave. And then he noticed that these people are not followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. They're from the other school of thought. So he told Sayyid Muhsin Amin, you know, it's good, how did you get this people to follow you like this and respect you like this? He said, when I first moved here, he said, I decided I'm going to get involved in their life as much as I can. So he said, when I used to hear someone is sick, I would go to visit him. when I would see someone dying, then I would walk behind him. Initially, when I arrived here, he said people were hitting me with stones. They were throwing stones at me, initially. But I stayed. And I would continue. Whenever someone is sick, I would go to visit him. Whenever someone dies, I would follow their procession and I would go to the Aza and give some nice words to the family. He said, slowly, I won their love. And they started now coming to pray behind me. When one of them dies, they ask me to lead Salat al-Mayyit. And so on and so forth. That's really the methodology, one of the things that we need to implement, the akhlaq, the manners and the ethics. And these are one of the important values, inshallah, of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam that we will come across over the next few nights. Our manners, our attitudes, our character, it's really important. So Habib al-Najjar developed that personal connection with the third one, the third messenger. So he came when he heard that these messengers have been belied, the people are not really appreciating what they're doing. He came rushing. And these are the verses that I just recited for you. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. A man came from the faraway end of the city because he was on the outskirts. He was on the countryside. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. He came rushing. He came rushing. And he started talking to his people. And that takes me to the next step. Now, Prophet Isa alayhi salam has sent 3 messengers to the city already. Which basically means Allah sent them. Whether Allah sent them directly or through Isa alayhi salam, the messengers were sent by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, 3 messengers have been sent already by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet, Habib did not just sit back there and say, you know what? What's it of my business now? Allah has sent already 3 messengers. What difference am I going to make? What change am I going to do? This is not the attitude and the akhlaq, especially of the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Brothers and sisters, we need to become active. We need to start getting involved. Each and every one of us needs to start getting involved. I heard last week, unfortunately, there was a shooting here in this city. Very unfortunate. But I heard it was a young boy, about teenager, 15-something years old. And now the whole Islamophobia thing is raised, and people are saying Muslim are this, Muslim are that. One of the problems we face, my brothers and sisters, is that we are inactive. We are always reactive, not proactive. We wait for a problem, then people start talking about us, and then we say, you know what, no, this is not us. We are really good people, and so on and so forth. Why don't we become proactive, taking the stand? Another incident happened in Canada, in the US, similar to this. The problem is we never react. We need to start getting involved. I was just talking to one of the brothers earlier today. It would be great if we can have an institute that speaks for Muslim rights, defends Muslim rights, gets involved with the affairs of the society, the community. And this institute is actually paid. You can get funding. I'll give you an example. In Edmonton, again, the city where I used to live, in Alberta, Canada. In the province of Alberta, they have oil. There are oil. What they call the oil sands. So it's a different mechanism of extracting oil than the regular oil. Nonetheless, an institute developed, a not-for-profit institute. The job of this institute is to defend the environmentalists, environmental rights. So they say, you want to do the oil sands, no problem. You want to extract the oil, however, you got to do it within the boundaries of the environment. Don't destroy the environment. This institute raises millions of dollars annually, and it has paid staff members. They hire PhDs, they hire experts, and they do research and they do studies. These people are paid. It's all not for profit. They actually raise their funds from donations. They raise them from corporates, sponsorships, and so on and so forth. If we take that model, why can't we establish also a center that actually pays, hires experts, hires lawyers, and alhamdulillah in our community as Shia followers of Ahlul Bayt, we have them. We have lawyers, we have accountants, we have educated people, we have business people. So we have them. Then why not establish something similar where we hire experts and they would speak for Muslims. They would get involved. They start publishing reports. They start getting involved actively. That's something we can do. This is all our responsibility. As the hadith says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Each and every one of you is responsible. This is not just only the Sheikh's responsibility or the Sayyid's responsibility. No, everybody. We're all responsible in this. We need to become a bit more proactive. Here's an example of Habib. Habib did not just sit back. Again, he could have said, Allah sent 3 messengers. What difference am I going to make? That's not the way we work. The difference, yes, maybe he did not make a difference in the short run, but he had a huge impact. Habib came and started talking to people, educating them. Follow the messengers. They don't ask you for any money. They don't ask you for any materialistic reward. Everything they do is for Allah. Why don't you follow such people? A very logical argument. He gave them logic. People, you may have individuals who come and talk to you because they want money of you. They don't want any money. They're talking to you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There has to be a creator for us. Who created us? Who made us? Why don't we worship Him? Logic. He's just talking to them logic. What happens, unfortunately, is many people don't follow logic. They don't follow logic. And we see this in this world today. They don't follow this logic. And the problem is, they started attacking people who have this logic. So they attacked Habib. And they killed him. They killed him. Now, if you and I were standing there on that day, we might have said, poor Habib, poor guy, he just wasted his life. That's it, it's done. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immortalized him in the Quran. In Surah Yasin. I mean, think about it, brothers and sisters. If they tell you, you do something and then you'll be remembered for thousands of years down the road, people will remember you. In materialistic context, in a worldly context, wouldn't that be success? If people remember you for thousands of years, you'll be like a legend. I'm remembered for thousands of years. What success would you want in dunya? In dunya. Here is Habib remembered in dunya, in the Quran until the day of judgment. And in the akhirah, the minute he got killed, قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. He said, go enter Jannah. It's like, we say, the expression, they've rolled the red carpet. He said, تفضل, go ahead, Jannah. قِيلَ ادْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And then he said, قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ. I wish my people would understand, would realize what they're missing out on. That's really the kind of example we need to live by, brothers and sisters. He is now immortalized in dunya, successful in the akhirah. That's what happens when we go through the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. When we follow their path, that's what happens to us. You find the same thing with Imam Al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. Imam Al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. Of course, he's an imam. He's a leader. When he saw that there is corruption in the community, in the society that he was living in, he just did not sit back and say, what difference can I make? What change can I initiate? I have no power. I am not the Khalifa. No, that's not the way we think. We need to become proactive. He got up, salamullahi alayh. He stood up by himself or with few people who supported him. And he fought. And look at the difference he made. Inshallah, over the next few nights, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll touch on that. We hear this regularly in the majalis when Imam al-Hussein said, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنصُرُنِي أو يَنصُرُنَا. Is there anyone to help us, support us? He's calling on all of us, brothers and sisters. All of us. We all want to be there for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but we want to follow his path as well. The way he prayed, the way he fasted, the way he acted. We want to learn about him such that we can follow his example and become like him, inshallah. Or like his companions, alayhimus salam, who sacrificed their lives for Imam al-Hussein. That's one thing we need to understand. Let us become proactive. Imam al-Hussein got up. When Yazid ibn Muawiyah became the Khalifa after his father, he ordered his governor in Medina to have the pledge of allegiance from Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to Yazid. Told him, get me the pledge of allegiance. So he brings him over. He tells him that Yazid ibn Muawiyah has become the Khalifa and he wants the pledge of allegiance from you. Imam al-Hussein salamullah alayhi, after a conversation that took place and a discussion that took place between him and the governor, at the end of it, he said to him, Yazid is a corrupt man, a corrupt ruler, a corrupt leader. I come from a house of justice, house of kindness, the house of religion of Allah. And a man like me cannot pledge allegiance to a man like him. That's one of the earliest calls for social justice. One of the earliest calls for lack of racism, against racism. One of the early calls against poverty. These are issues that we are experiencing in this day and age. These are among the calls of Imam al-Hussein salamullah alayhi on that day. Imam al-Hussein then realized that he cannot stay in Medina for too long, because Yazid would not let him, would not leave him alone. And indeed, Yazid has done it. 1 year after Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, after killing him, 1 year later, he sent an army to Medina that killed so many people, raped the women, destroyed, because there was a revolution led by a man called Abdullah ibn Hanbala against Yazid ibn Muawiyah in Medina after what happened to Imam al-Hussein salamullah alayhi. So Yazid has no respect for human rights, no respect for the religion of Allah, no respect for humanity altogether. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was forced then to leave Medina. Some of the brothers may have been to Hajj, but some of you may recently just come back from Hajj. If you remember the day when you went to Medina, you're so happy, excited. But think of the day when you left Medina. It's hard. Those of you who have not been to Medina, maybe you've been to Ziyarah, either in Mashhad or in Iraq. Remember the day when you wanted to leave that holy shrine, that last day. You know how difficult it was when you stand there and you be like, you know what, I just don't want to go. I want to stay here. That last moment, that last farewell, how did you feel? Now think of Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. He went to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi on that last night. Just before he left, he sat there on the grave of Rasulullah that whole night. He was crying, remembering Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, talking to him. He says, my grandfather, Ya Jaddah, I am forced to leave you, although I don't want to. This is where my heart belongs. next to your grave. It is said that he closed his eyes for a few moments. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. He told him, my grandson, my son, you'll be coming to me shortly. You'll be joining me shortly. So Imam al-Hussein opened his eyes and said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And then Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi started preparing the family slowly for them to leave. Again, some of your brothers and sisters were in Hajj recently. On the day of Arafah, you were there praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the desert, remembering Allah. But Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had to cut his Hajj short. Again, he had to leave Mecca and start heading towards Karbala, or towards Kufa initially, and then the path was diverted to Karbala. So again, on those moments, you think of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, think of his family, think of his children, how they all left and they started heading towards this land that's known as Karbala. This whole event really made Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in much pain, in much grief. Whenever they remember Muharram, whenever Muharram comes, you find Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in grief, in pain. One of the poets by the name of Du'bil al-Khuza'i, he comes to visit Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. As he talks to Imam al-Rida, he starts reciting verses of poetry. These verses of poetry ignites the pain in the heart of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, until he arrives at one verse where it is said Imam al-Rida started crying out loud. Wa Jaddah wa Husaynah. He was asked, Ya Du'bil, what did you say? What was that verse? He said, I reminded him of what happened to his aunt Zainab salamullahi alayha. I said to him, بنات زياد في القصور مخدرات وبنات الرسول سبايا في الفلوات. He said, I told him the daughters and the children and the women of Ibn Ziyad are well protected in their palaces and their mansions, but the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi are prisoners in the deserts. The women and the children were all weeping, crying in pain as they arrived to Karbala. As they left Karbala, they're all looking at the family when they arrived. How did they arrive? And then the day they left, how did they leave? In what state? And what kind? Sukayna bint al-Husayn salamullahi alayha was missing. Zainab went to her. She started looking for her. She found her hugging the body of her father, Abi Abdullah al-Husayn, crying. She said, Amma Zainab, my aunt Zainab, I came to seek help from my father, but he's a body without a head. My aunt Zainab, I can't leave my father. It is difficult for me. She said, my little girl, it's even more difficult for me to leave him. But we have to. She hugged her aunt. She got up on the camels. They were started beating them, hitting them. And this how they came and they left Karbala. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ala Muhammadin ayya munqalabin yanqalibun wal 'aqibatu lil muttaqin. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن 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 يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله 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 إلهي بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها اكشف عنا السوء يا الله. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا كفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار يا الله مع محمد وآله الأطهار يا الله. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات شافي وعافي جميع مرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات على الخصوص من أوصلنا بالدعاء منهم. اللهم اقض حوائجهم شاف مرضاهم احفظهم في أوطانهم وديارهم بحفظك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل أنظارنا بنظرة منا إليه. اللهم نقسم عليك بالزهراء فاطمة إلا ما رزقتنا شفاعة الزهراء في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة يا الله يا الله يا الله لقضاء الحوائج ولشفاء المرضى ولكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة ولتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات لا سيما أرواح أموات الجالسين والحاضرين. رحم الله من يقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. Brothers and sisters, just to remind you, tomorrow inshallah being Thursday night, we'll have dua Humayn inshallah. So if you want to attend that inshallah as well, and do so. Jazakumullah khairah. We'll be starting inshallah the Arabic